Hello everyone, it's Vanderbosch here. I was cruising through the Delica forums and found a thread about the Rear Delica Logo light fix, and I had no clue that these are actually supposed to light up behind it. So obviously I'll link the forum in the description, but today we're going to remove that back panel and get this logo to work. I think it's going to look really cool. The ones I've seen, it's like a greenish bluish kind of light, and it really sets it off at night. So I'm going to try to do the mod and get everything looking pretty good. If we open this up, it looks like I just have to take this off. I have some pry tools that are used for paneling. So if I go over here, I have these. One I wrapped a little bit of masking tape over it so that I don't scratch any metal or anything. I don't know if that's necessary to do, but these are the kind of the tools I'll be using. You will need a solder gun. I'm hoping the solder gun I've had here works. And then I have these LEDs that I bought. It seemed like on the thread, the one that he had linked didn't work anymore, so I kind of went on Amazon and found a related product, and then I bought those. So I'll see if these end up working or not. Hopefully they do. So I'm gonna try to pull this back paneling off this door. It's kind of awkward since you have to work kind of overhead. And I really don't want to wreck this at all because I know I can't fix it and I know I can't get a new one. So yeah, we're just gonna pull this off, check what's behind it, unplug things, try to get things soldered, and we'll see what we run into. It looks like this might be over the top, or maybe this is a part of this panel. Hopefully I don't have to, might have to take this latch. I don't know if this is to open it from the inside. I know a lot of this stuff might be kind of rusted or eroded. I've never, looks like that still works. I've never really messed with any of this on this side, so I'm just gonna take it apart and see where we go. So I'm gonna try to kind of show you my technique for going across. It's pretty universal on how to do this. I don't want to ruin these plastic clips that are up on the inside of this. So basically what you do is, sorry if this doesn't look good, yeah, there we go. You kind of slowly bring it in and try to move it as close to the plastic tab as possible, and then you kind of just keep slowly applying pressure, and then it'll pop off. Hope I didn't break that one. But normally they sit on the inside, like right here, but sometimes they'll come off the cardboard and be stuck inside the van, so I'm gonna have to pull this one out right there and put it back into this cardboard. But it looks like there's 1, 2, 3 on the sides. There'll probably be a couple down this line right here, but just for reference on where to put your pry tool to get these out, because otherwise you kind of have to get this as close to the thing as possible before you pry open. Otherwise you might start ruining stuff. So I'm gonna keep going around. So I got that panel off. It definitely looks like there was someone here before me. I mean, I don't know why there's like a band-aid thing holding this together. It's a little weird. But this right here, and there's one on the other side right there. I think those are the lights for the logo. So I'll be, I guess, taking those out. One thing to note, so there's 1, 2, 3 of these connectors on this side. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the top and bottom. Here is the piece that I took out. So use this as a guideline of where to put that that trim tool to pop them out. There's a few cases where the cardboard ripped, and it seems like this is a guarantee to happen no matter what. I mean, this guy is completely smashed in right here, but really, as long as you can get it out and salvage it, you just have to put it in there in the bigger hole, and then you slide it over, and then it kind of gets into the smaller hole. So that's how these should be. So if anything actually falls out, like this one's still on the van, This one's still in the van. You can tell it's tore a little bit. I'll just go up there, use the pry tool to take them off the metal, and then slide them back into place. So I'll go through and do that. To take this off, you had to remove the handle. So there's a Phillips, well, it's actually like a JIS screw, but you can use a Phillips to get that off. It is a spline connection, so take note on the orientation, because when you put it back, you'd want to put it in the same orientation. Once you get the handle off, there is another Phillips that's connecting this back plane to a part on the door. So once you unscrew that, then this entire thing comes loose. One thing that kind of makes this a little bit easier as you're going around, because you don't necessarily want this to start bending as it's dropping, is to, after you start seeing this thing kind of bending off, because you're probably going to be doing this overhead like me, kind of slightly push one of these connectors back in on one side and the other side, so there's some support. I tried to use tape to keep it like stuck up on the door, but I don't know if it's because it's so humid and hot today, but the tape wasn't sticking to anything. So that's kind of the locations of all those pieces. Make sure you get a pry tool. I've tried doing this stuff without pry tools, and then you just destroy these plastic clips. And I mean, maybe you can go to AutoZone with this clip and see if you can, you know, grab something from their like little panel trim section that might work, but it's better to just save what you have and reuse it. I mean, if you really have some big forethought and kind of go online, go to like Megazip and figure out what these trim pieces are, you could buy, you know, a half a dozen or whatever of these trim pieces just to have them on hand. But if you're careful, you don't really have to. But it's going to be on a person-to-person basis, because I mean, if you ever had a leak on that window, chances are these could be brittle, or if someone's already gone through and messed with this, which looks like someone has on mine, these could be completely destroyed anyways. So just some things to keep in mind before tackling this. So I guess this is a time to mention that not all the Delica rear ends have this lighting, and I'm not 100% sure if I do either. The form didn't really show too much in terms of where these are located. Like I mentioned before, I think this is one, and I think this is one. There's a little Phillips heads right here, and I'm gonna unplug this assembly from this point and this point, and then these two wires get soldered to it somehow. So like I said, I'm not 100% sure if this is even for the logo. I mean, I still have these, and these work. So worst case scenario, I swap all this out, it does nothing, and I continue on my way, and then I probably won't ever post this video. But we'll try to slip these lights out from here and go from there. Yeah, okay, yep. We're gonna go and move forward with that. So these are the lights after I took out that screw and pulled them out. They are pretty tight, but it's not a turn system or a lock system like some lights are, where you gotta push in and then turn a little bit. It's smooth all the way around. I did give it a little back and forth and then slowly pulled back out, and then they came off pretty easy. So now the technique is to, I'm gonna have to go back and reference that forum thread, but somehow you can separate the light from this housing. So that's the next step. So yeah, I'm gonna go through and read that form a few more times and see how to get that light out of this socket. So here's a close-up. I already did one of these, but here's a close-up of the housing with the light inside it after you take it out. Now, this is not like a plug, I don't think, but the technique, the first step I did was to take a small flathead like this, slowly pry around this kind of brittle plastic. It's kind of soft plastic, but pry around this and separate this piece from the wiring assembly. So that is step one. I'm gonna go and do that, and then I'll show you what I did next. So after you slowly go around separating that with the flathead, this will come off. This is that softer kind of plastic piece. It's filled with this hardened white powder stuff. So if you look, this is all the way around there.
Now on the other light, I took that same flathead and tried to chisel some of this out. The light's gonna come out on this side, so you're gonna push it. You could push it down through here. I don't know. I've never. Last time I tried to chip some of this out, and maybe I still will, because some of this like white plaster stuff on this goes over the edge of this housing, so it's gonna prevent it from popping out the side. So I'm gonna take that flathead and kind of stick it in there and give it really small turns. This stuff is very brittle, so like this white stuff kind of comes off pretty easy. So I'm gonna take that flathead and keep chiseling around it, and then I'm gonna take the flathead and kind of push down, and then the light should fall out. So I have a lot more of that digged out, as you can see around that hole. This is glass right here, so all that plaster style material has been pushed out. And before, I was able to just put the flathead in that spot right there and push down, but it's not really working. Oh, there we go. So I just put the flathead in there and pushed down, and then the little light piece came out. So here's a light piece. It's out. I'm gonna clean out the rest of that material on the inside, and then move on the next step of putting in the ones I ordered off Amazon. Okay, so these LEDs look like this. They have a nut, and then there's the LED piece. You have to unscrew the nut, feed the wire through the housing that we just separated from the light, and then if it's going to be kind of tight to get the threaded piece through this hole if there's any of that plaster stuff left. So make sure you clean that all the way up, and they kind of just push right in. I just barely tighten this nut because this threaded piece of these LEDs is plastic. Everything's plastic. It doesn't need torque, but I mean, they're pushed in pretty good. So that's this. The only thing I'm a little worried about, I'm gonna have to read that thread a little bit, is I don't know if these are directional or not. Obviously there's a red and black wire. The paperwork that comes with it is basically nothing. So yeah, I don't know what the positive is and what the negative is, so I'll read over that thread again and see if I can find any details on which one to splice to which. So yep, that's the next step, is to, obviously you don't want all this, or maybe you do, you can just kind of rubber band it back up together, but trim this wire and figure out which wire goes to which piece.
So, in trying to investigate what color goes to what on the LEDs, I'm looking at this back wiring right now, the harness back there. It looks like we have a green white stripe with red markings up and down it, and then a black wire with red markings up and down it. That doesn't tell me anything, and I don't have the wiring diagram for this. However, this black with the red stripe, if you follow that, it goes into the wiring harness and disappears forever. But there is the same style, if I clean this off, black with red stripe that goes to a ground. So I'm gonna move forward with this wire right here, with black with the red stripe being ground. It goes through this connector, so that means on the bottom end, this right wire I'm gonna say is ground. Put it together, hopefully I don't blow a fuse.
So with the assumption that that black with the red stripe wire is the ground, I plug these connectors back in, and then with a permanent marker I just mark the side that is ground. At the end of the forum thread that I linked, some guy actually has a more detailed picture, I think it's on page 3, of what he did to do this. So I kind of followed his lead in doing the same thing. He also marked the side that's the ground. So that means this top wire, or the wire on this side, is the ground. So if the previous clip with me trying to do it up top wasn't clear enough, hopefully this is clear enough to indicate. This will then be attached to the black wire. The ground would attach to the black wire, and then the red goes to the opposite side. So I have one of these done. As you can see, following that grounding logic with the wire that I stated in the previous clip, I connected that side to the black and then the other side to the red. I didn't take a video of me doing this soldering because I am not an expert at soldering. I can't stress that enough. I have this solder gun. I have solder, but that's about as much as you can put to me as like an expert. So I kind of wrap the wires around, because this is very, very, very thin wiring. I wrapped it around the stock Delica wire and then put a glob on it and then pulled it to make sure it was tight. It seemed good. One thing that was giving me a little bit of an issue is that you kind of have to put this heat shrink material on the wire before you connect them, otherwise you can't slide it over. But when you're soldering, the heat actually ends up closing the closest part of the heat shrink, so it's hard to push it back over the glob that you put on there. So I've kind of shortened up the heat. I had a longer one on there before, but I've shrank them up for this one so that I don't have to worry about trying to cut off some of this heat sink so it'd slide over the soldered part. One thing I did, I didn't take a clip of it, but something that you should do is after you solder one, plug it in. Go up to the back of the van, plug it in, turn your lights on, make sure this light turns on. If it turns on, then you have that polarity right. Like I said, I'm not very sure if this does have a polarity. They might be reversible, but I didn't want to take any chances. So I did one, made sure it worked. Then now I'm going to do the other. I am not a solder expert. There's hundreds of thousands of videos on how to solder online. I don't want to put bad data out in the field and people following what I did. I mean, there's people who do this for a living that would look at what I'm doing and go, what the hell is this man doing? That's not doing absolutely anything. So I don't know if I want to show that, but there's enough material online for anyone to kind of have an idea of how it works. Or you can use those connectors, those crimp connectors. The only issue I wouldn't use a crimp connector is that this wiring is like 20 gauge. It's super, super thin. So I don't know how well a crimp connector will actually hold on it. But I'm going to do the other side, solder it up, and then reassemble everything. But yeah, so we'll continue on with that. So I went to go install these after soldering everything on and putting this through here. One thing that maybe you guys need to look at when trying to find these LEDs is when I originally put these in, the LED, the glass piece, was actually sticking above this housing. And then when I tried to put that little screw on to hold it into the heat sink on the door, it wouldn't sit flush and it didn't look right. So I don't know if this is the right way of doing it, but what I ended up doing was I have this and I kind of, slowly grinded this down, not letting it get too hot. I tested this on a, oh wow, this is not focusing. I tested this on one of the spare LEDs because I think this comes in a pack of 10 or 12. So I grinded it down, got it hot, and then I attached it to a battery just to see if it still would light up, and this still lights up. But I don't know if the other housing on other people's stuff, if this didn't, because before it was sitting like right here, and that was hitting whatever's in the back of that heat sink, that like fiber optic cable. So after grinding that angle in it, because it's kind of, I don't know if you can see there's an angle to that. After grinding that in, now it sits flush, even a little bit back more. I don't want to melt anything or burn anything, so hopefully this is good enough. But I don't know if most people just left it sticking out like that and then tightened the screw as good as they could and called it good. But I'm hoping this will prevent things from getting melted or hot or whatever's going to happen when this LED is like actually physically touching something. So yeah, I already did this one. This one might still be hot, which it's not, but I did this one. Of course I figured this out after I already soldered the wires, and like I said, I didn't see anything on that thread talking about that, but so that's that. And now when I push this all the way in, now it's down in there a little bit more. So before it was like this, now it's like that. So hopefully these things still work. I know after I did the grinding and everything, they did get really hot, and I was worried that the lens or whatever, the glue or the stuff that's up at the base of the wires or at the top would fucking unseal itself, but it didn't seem to do that. And on my test, it still lit when I put it on a motorcycle battery, so we're just gonna send it and see if it still works. So I'm gonna plug these in and turn the lights on and see what happens.
So after grabbing that chamfer into the LED housing, I reinstalled these with that Phillips head. They now sit flush, which is nice. One thing to watch out for, I forgot to mention when you're taking these out, is this little screw here is literally the smallest screw ever. It's less than a 1/4 inch long. I dropped it and it took a bit for me to find it, so be sure when you're taking this off to have someone or you make sure you catch it before it falls off. Unless you're doing this with it closed, then it might be a little bit easier. I did turn on the lights. So actually before I say that, that's what this looks like. The bend is not on the solder, which is good. And then right here, the bend's not on the solder, so that's good. I tried turning on the lights with this down. The sunlight outside's too bright for you to actually see it. So I'm going to shut this door and then turn the lights on, and then hopefully everything works good. So that's the next step.
And here it is. I'm happy that all the letters are lighting up. If you read through that thread, some people have issues with spiders getting in the logo or behind this housing right here, and that causes some of these letters to actually be faded out. It looks good. I don't have any fading on any of the letters. So yeah, I can't stress enough about going through that thread that I'll have linked from Delica Forum. It was super helpful. I wouldn't have been able to get to where I did without using that forum. So please check it out. I'm gonna link those LEDs still into my in the description. However, those did require modifications, and I don't know if other people who have done this mod have a better set of LEDs to order so you don't have to do that grinding, because it's a pretty straightforward mod, or thing to do. I don't know if you would necessarily call it a mod, but if you have to do that grinding, it's kind of stressful, and I don't know how heat will work on certain LEDs versus others. It could burn out the LED or screw up the diode or whatever. So if you do have a good set of LEDs that don't require that modification, please comment below with the Amazon link so other people can go out there and do this thing fairly straightforward, because that was kind of a pain. But yeah, I think that's about it for this video. Like, comment, subscribe, do whatever you want to do in the bottom. More videos to come. However, I do want to give you guys an FYI. These next couple 3-4 months, I might be a little MIA on YouTube. I have some other stuff coming up that I got to work on, and it's going to kind of take me away from working on the Delica. So if you realize, like, what the heck, he hasn't posted a video in a while, that's kind of the issue. So yeah, I'm gonna be done with that. It was pretty fun. I also have some other projects kind of going on. I got a street van over there, and then a Dodge that's in the front, another one. I don't know what I'm planning on doing with that. I don't know if people who are subscribed to this channel would be interested in any videos on that. If you are, I guess comment below. I'm not going to abandon the Delica for sure. I've put so much work into this with the weather stripping, the suspension, even this little stuff that I'm doing today, that it's never going to go away. But I'm just kind of fishing to see if you guys would be interested in other van projects. So I guess let me know. But yeah, that's it. Hopefully I'll be able to post videos soon, but like I said, I'll be MIA for a bit. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out that thread, and I'll see you guys next time.